Hello, my name is Jason Berger. I am presenting on how to bridge the gap of the adoption of innovations for Liberty University School of Education, Course 631. The diffusion of innovation theory states that there are 5 groups that people ultimately fit into when adopting innovations. These 5 groups are innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. The innovators make up about 2.5% of people. This is the smallest group within the innovation theory. The innovators are willing to experience new ideas even if the innovation may prove unprofitable and unsuccessful. The innovators are willing to test out any new innovations presented to them. The early adopters make up about 13.5% of people. The early adopters play a larger integrated part in the local social system. The early adopters have the ability to influence the groups that will be discussed later through the adoption process. The early adopters have the highest degree of opinion and leadership within the diffusion of innovation theory. They are looked to by potential adopters. The early adopters have the ability to trigger critical mass adoption through their work with the innovation. The early adopters are respected by their peers, and the early adopters can give a stamp of approval for an innovation by adopting it. The early majority make up about 34% of people. The early majority will adopt an innovation right before the average person of a system. The early majority are not the newest to try an innovation, but they are also not the oldest group to try it either. The early majority must think through an innovation and an idea before they are willing to adopt it. The late majority makes up about 34% of people also. For the late majority, adoption occurs out of economic necessity and peer pressure. The late majority typically do not adopt an innovation on their own. They must sometimes be forced into it by their peers. The late majority must have most uncertainty removed before they will adopt an innovation. The late majority approaches ideas with skepticism and caution. The final group, laggards, makes up about 16% of people. The laggards isolate themselves and they are last in a social system to adopt an innovation. They have no opinion in regard to leadership. The laggards are suspicious of change agents. Any decisions that a laggard may make is based on the past. The adoption process for laggards is lengthy, and the laggards must be certain that an idea will not fail before they are willing to adopt it. Leading a system with technology changes. Deciding how to proceed through the adoption process can be challenging. Forcing the use of innovations is not an effective step to take. A strategy must be developed to assist with proper education. Innovators, early adopters, and early majority can assist with the adoption process. Porter and Graham, 2016. The late majority and the laggards tend to follow the example of the innovators, the early adopters, and the early majority. As Titus chapter 2 verse 7 says, "Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity." One must utilize the innovators, the early adopters, and early majority as leading by example through the adoption process. Innovation can be piloted with the innovators, early adopters, and early majority. They can use their experience to decide the best course of action with the late majority and the laggards. The innovators, the early adopters, and the early majority can be used as leaders and pilot the innovation. The late majority and laggards. Patience is key when working with the late majority and the laggards through the adoption process. The late majority may require training, support, and a secure infrastructure before they will adopt the innovation. The laggards, however, are even more difficult to recruit. They have an aversion to technology and resist its adoption. They ultimately have the same needs as innovators and early adopters. Lee and Wong, 2016. One must take their feelings and perceptions into account. One must carefully design the introduction and professional development of the innovation, and detailed information on the benefits and how to use the innovations must be given. One must allow time for comfortability to develop with the late majority and the laggards. Romans chapter 12, verse 12 states, "Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer." Through patience and prayer, anything is possible, especially in tribulations that may happen due to introduction of technology innovations. Leading like Christ. Mark chapter 10, verse 45 says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." This is the role of educators. Educators are meant to serve their students, to meet the needs of their students, and to ensure that their students are set up to succeed. In order to best serve the students, education and instruction must evolve and adapt as the times change. The adoption of technological innovations can assist with improving instruction. Jesus led by example to promote God's message. Educators must also lead by example not only with their students, but with their colleagues who may fall into the late majority and the laggard categories. Jesus also delegated to his disciples in spreading the message of God. It can be effective to delegate some responsibility to the innovators, the early adopters, and the early majority to assist the late majority and the laggards in the adoption process. Thank you.